Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex. Today we're going to be taking a look at Wavetale on the Nintendo Switch. An action-adventure with an oceanic setting. Is this one a gem, or do you need to hold on to that cash? Well, that's what I'm here to find out, so hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and let's get started. If you are thinking about grabbing Wavetale, then consider using a cornershop.gg for discounted eShop credit. You'll get 10% off at checkout using code CORNER, and this it's instant delivery via email. Story then, and we find ourselves on a future Earth which has been taken over by the tide outside of a few small islands. Our lead, Sigrid, a young girl who resides with her grandmother after losing her mother. Now life, it seems relatively quiet outside of a thick fog that surrounds us that we must keep at bay. Nor must we enter the water here, as well as it seems both contain dangerous creatures that have somewhat taken over the surrounding areas. Well, naturally, of course, things go wrong, the fog attacks, and now we must battle back against these sea monsters and shadow-like figures. The concept really is light against dark. Get beacons, watchtowers, leverage sparks to power the electronic objects around you. Think these are like small, almost creatures. Thankfully though, we have support here in the form of a shadow that allows us to walk and glide on water. I really enjoyed the story. It's got a lot of charm, and Sigrid is a likeable lead as she really tries to understand the characters we meet, herself, for this world, and then the history of our mother. Gameplay then, and what we have here is an action-adventure platformer, though the central mechanic, that is the ability to walk and glide on water. I actually did a preview on the channel, said I loved it there. That has not changed. The novelty from this water ability never once went away, and having this movement just felt so freeing. It's simple to use, but you can boost or jump on it, particularly satisfying off of, larger waves, but more than anything, again, it is simply really fun. Exploration then on land, it plays much like a traditional 3D platformer. Our weapon of choice, a net. This will not only allow us to swing at enemies, but with progression, we learn it acts as a grappling hook for traversal, and it allows us to collect up the spark creatures to power devices. We can even then glide with it by simply holding down the jump button, and yeah, there's also a double jump, a heavy spin attack, and we can also dive headfirst into water for a speed boost. The gameplay loop here, though relatively simplistic. Follow a waypoint, help the characters in this world complete side quests should you choose to, and then occasionally do battle it out. Some creatures, they've invaded the land, smaller in scale but often in greater numbers. My favourite by far though, it has to be the giant mechanical beast that's kind of leading the charge alongside these walkers that give me an air of War of the World, but in this case floating on top of the water. This game though will honestly rarely challenge you. I had no deaths in my playthrough, but that's honestly what I enjoyed here so much. It's just a relaxing time, understanding what we could explore and just getting out there and taking a look, feeling like we are helping the locals, and then just simply pushing the narrative forward with some simplistic environmental puzzles. For the most part, quests are find someone or activate something, meaning a whole lot of switches and puzzles, but it definitely felt right within the environments. It's how you get to the locations though. Let's say you've got to get to the top of the tower. That really worked for me. It could be things like springboards, lifts, gliding, switches, grappling onto the different objects in the world. There's even these chutes that propel you forward, which is by far my favourite element of all of the action, simply because couldn't help but try and chain them all together, avoiding the land and water entirely. It's just simply rewarding. Along this adventure then you'll find a few collectibles, that's pages from a scrapbook, and then along the way your grandma, she's following you. She's a bit of a badass, kind of floating around in her boat, but here we can change Sigrid's outfit and general appearance should that be for you. Problems then, and honestly for the price point, $29.99 USD or your regional equivalent, gonna say it feels a little short for what you are, investing. My runtime with a few of the side activities, it was just shy of 4 hours, and I was definitely kind of going off on my own on occasion just because of the water mechanics. Now look, sure, I could go back, wrap everything up. I'm just not sure of the pull it really has. It feels very much like a self-contained one-time adventure. Then the performance on the Switch, for a good majority it is fine, but when the big sea monster appears, it can get quite choppy, and that plays an impact on your ability to platform. You know, if the frame rate is dropping, so is your input recognition. I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad though, just rather disappointing when you compare it to how fluid the rest of the action feels. The platforming as well are mostly good, a really simplistic control scheme and good use of waypoints as well to ensure you're always on track, but do expect naturally 3D platformer, the camera here at points it can get, you know, a little erratic with its movements. Overall though, I like the game, but the moments that should be high impact, they come with their own unique performance issues, and yeah, it also just generally may be over before you hope. Graphically then, I really like Wavetale. It's going for a cel-shaded visual style, and while it's been dialed back compared to many consoles, especially the shadow work, I still think it looks really good. The world is unique with these small islands everywhere to quickly adventure around, each with their own unique secrets and kind of visual treats. You know, it's just entertaining simply seeing what was once here before the aquatic destruction. The water, most importantly then, I think it looks incredible. It feels alive, waves are often huge, filling the screen, and the texture work here, I really do think it is impressive. I also really like the enemies. Like, sure, the shadows look, you know, kind of difficult to distinguish at times in variety, but when you see those walkers on water, you can't help but feel impressed. The cutscenes then in engine, they look fine, but the facial expressions, they suffer from a huge amount of pixelation, which is definitely a shame. You know, it impacts personality. It's also worth noting the camera can pull back quite often, and in handheld mode, I did find the compass at the top of the screen, some of the symbols, and generally the text could be a little too small to handle. My final note on visuals, do be aware going in, you are going to notice throughout the experience quite a bit of popping. Unfortunately, just due to the size of this location, it seems it's a restriction of the hardware we have. Audio finally, and I like it. Much like the adventure, it embraces a mix of tempos, mostly relying on something that matches the relaxing nature of the game. That said though, it knows when to dial things up for the larger impact encounters, and it definitely led to a few pieces that were extremely memorable. It's a soundtrack I'm hoping to see get a standalone release, because I would happily add this one to the record collection. Sound effects then relatively minimal, but attacks, platforming and the ocean, they sound good. It's also partially voice acted as well, particularly when someone is guiding you through the world or you're speaking to yourself, and that's of an extremely high quality. I was really impressed with the team here bringing the story to life in this way. So the final verdict, I really do like Wavetale. The sense of exploration and freedom alongside relaxation, it's unique. I can't help but get that kind of Wind Waker air of adventure, which will always be a compliment. With a combination of some fun locations, solid platforming, and simplistic combat though, it absolutely kept me engaged for what was, you know, its short runtime. And on that note, I just wish there was more. I was really kind of just getting into it, and then before I knew it, it was over. I'm hoping now they look to, you know, follow it up with some sort of sequel. I can't ignore then as well a few factors for what you're getting here. The price point feels too high, the frame rate drops impact some of the most intimidating battles, which just happen to be also the most intense platforming as well, so you're going to feel all of that in the controls naturally, and then it has some quirks as well, like handheld. It's really going to need a few UI tweaks. Today, an above average, a 6 out of 10, but just know again, I had a good time. I'm just waiting on a patch now and a price drop potentially to really get behind it. Will you be checking out Wavetale though? Let me know in the comments below. With that then, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.